He's missed out on just so much joy, and we would have been okay. And I think that's what the hardest thing is. We would have been okay. You okay?
I'm sorry, it's a bit hard to ask you questions that
Children and
I know.
hard, and
it is.
you've experienced loss yourself.
It's okay.
I think it's very interesting. He evidently released that to the world himself, so he didn't mind us seeing him being emotional. He has always been his generation. I mean, him and he and indeed his brother have always been much more open about emotions, mental health issues, and things like that than the previous generation. And so, yeah, I think it was very touching actually what he showed us, and it's the lady he was talking to who'd had those awful tragedies, asked him if he was all right. He said he was, and on he went. Yeah, I think it was good. I mean, I think it's a different way of doing things, but it's the modern way. It relates to people. It's always quite brave to show emotion in public, and of course sometimes it overtakes people in public, which is difficult for them. But yes, I think it shows a very human side of him. And I mean, goodness me, he's been through so much himself in his life. I mean, the interesting thing about what he said recently was that 2024 was the worst year of his life. Well, when you think of what he went through with the death of his mother and indeed all the travails that went before that, that's quite a statement. I mean, he must have had a really difficult time because his wife was very ill. He didn't know what was going to happen. He had three small children. His father was ill, so he might have found himself propelled onto the throne unexpectedly at any moment. And then, of course, he has all the other things to think about that princes of Wales have to think about that, in a sense, you and I don't have to. He has many responsibilities with his charities, regiments spread across the world, in fact. There is, as you know, some criticism that he doesn't do enough royal duties. People are writing articles saying that. But I think the most interesting thing is that the Queen, Elizabeth II, had a wonderful childhood for 10 years before she had to realize that she was one day going to be Queen when the abdication came along. And that set her up as a very stable Queen. You hear so much about the royal family being dysfunctional, and Prince William's childhood was certainly dysfunctional. And I think what he's trying to do, so encourage it, is to bring his children up in a very loving and caring and hands-on way, to give them a wonderfully stable background for whatever they have to face in the future. And I'm sure that'll pay dividends. There is plenty of time for him to assume the full royal duties. And of course, when he becomes king, he'll have to do that. But you asked me, what sort of a king he might be and what sort of changes he might make. Well, the answer is, of course, we don't know, and he probably doesn't really know, and he doesn't have to face that until the moment comes. But I suspect that he will be more informal, because we've seen a lot of evidence of that over the years. Call me William, the open shirt, no tie, many royal engagements, picking up Prince George from the hospital, popping him in the car himself, putting him in his little baby carriage and driving off, whereas his father was, chauffeur-driven car and a tie and a suit and not holding the baby. It's all these things are changes that happen. So I think we will find him much more open in that respect. And of course, he has also spoken quite a lot about what he went through in his own childhood and, what he suffered with the death of his mother. It is, of course, a very different approach that Prince William takes to that of his family, because his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, was brought up during the war very much, and Prince Philip likewise served in, they both served in the war in different ways. He particularly, of course, in the Navy, and it was very much, you know, best foot forward. Don't show your emotions and get on with it and all that. And the Queen very rarely showed emotion. The one time in public when she really did show emotion, funnily enough, was the decommissioning of Britannia, because if you look at the pictures of her with her family, they're all in tears because, of course, boats have a very strong effect on people, and it was where they were happiest. It was like a wonderful floating hotel, and they had their honeymoons and their holidays, and they absolutely loved it. So she showed much more emotion when Britannia was decommissioned than she did, for example, at the death of the Princess of Wales or the Queen Mother, where she guarded her feelings very closely. But of course, Prince William's mother, Diana, she did break down in public once or twice, particularly just after the separation. You will find pictures and film of her, you know, sort of tears in her eyes. And of course, even before she married, she had to be escorted from the polo ground, very upset. So she didn't mind showing her emotion. So I suspect that's probably where Prince William's got it from.